Hey friends in the Swell Land and other podcast lands and other lands that stream this little bit of my universe to you. Welcome back to 5 Minutes of Authenticity with Pritha. We might go a little over than 5 minutes, but I hope you are following me on any channel where you follow your podcasts. I try to keep the space as one of warmth, compassion, kindness, and a safe space where we talk about things we all go through. And this month, we have been focusing on overwhelm. We've talked a little bit about acknowledging what it looks like and what it sounds like and what it does to our bodies. And last episode, we looked at a few mindful shifts, small shifts, that can actually break up bigger patterns and create a lasting impact. We also touched upon why it is hard for us to pause and why it is important for us to pause. Now that we know what to do, the question comes back to how to get it done, how we can come back to ourselves. And so, friends, I decided to title this episode as Returning to Ourselves as being a conscious choice. We do have the agency. We can give ourselves permission to return to who we are and focus on what is important for ourselves to enable us to deal with the weight we talked about a little bit better. Now, wherever you are at this very moment, I would request you to soften your breath, let the muscles of your face release, and start with a space of kindness and compassion to yourself. You know, oftentimes we have to think about, okay, I'm going to start and focus on creating my calm core. Reality is you don't. It exists. It is within you. The fact that you're taking the time today, and I'm so humble that you are, to listen to this, it just means that you have a calm core, one that is rooted, one that is sound, one that is grounded. But all of us sometimes feel that, okay, where is it? Where is my core? So it is something we can return to, like a place that is safe for us, a happy place for us. Now, some tools that remind us of this inner steadiness could be something like a mantra, a simple affirmation that says, I choose presence over pressure. If you were to say this to yourself a few times, you will realize it is actually a mindset that tells you that while I'm in the midst of it all, in the middle of a crazy day, I can take 5 minutes to choose my presence, my existence, my very being, and give it much more importance, much more precedence than the pressure that I'm facing. It could be a simple habit like a 60-second reset between a meeting or a transition. Like I talked about in the previous episode, take a quick walk, do some deep breaths, stand out and look at the sky for a bit. And one of the things that we have such a hard time is a boundary. No is a complete sentence. So instead of hopping from task to task to task, you can set a boundary for yourself and say, no, I am not ready to do this yet. Or, I'm sorry, I cannot take care of this right now because of whatever reason. But when you place that precedence on yourself, you are able to draw that boundary with a lot more grace. Also, friends, your body is the messenger. We carry stress in our body in various ways, in various places. And support does not always start with the mind. It also starts with the body. And so it is important to do what you need to do, whether it comes to movement, whether it comes to breath work, whether it comes to grounding, whatever it does to make you feel in charge and more present and that whole theme that we're talking about is returning to who you are. If it's a run in the morning, if it is the sun salutation, if it is a deep meditation, whatever it is, whatever it takes to give that affirmation to your body that yes, I am present, I am here, I am intentional. You know, it's very humbling and it might sound stupid, but honestly, if you were to place a hand on your chest right now over your heart, you will feel your breath. And what is your body saying? It is saying, I am still here. If you think about it, that is an extremely profound message. And how often do we acknowledge the body that keeps us going? The limbs, the legs, the heart, the torso, the head, your hands. How often do we take the time to acknowledge all that we take for granted in our body? So listen to your body, listen to what it's saying, acknowledge it, give it kindness, and it will repay back manyfold. The other thing we often face when we face overwhelm is this feeling of being alone in our struggle. And that feeling of overwhelm can isolate us, and it can make us feel we are completely alone, struggling through this on our own, and that can be a downward spiral. This is where you have to tell yourself that I give myself permission to seek help and support. It could be just sitting and chatting with a friend or sharing a low day with somebody. Acknowledging that you've had a low day and saying that you need help or it would do you some good if you cried is not a sign of weakness. You know, naming what you need for your mind and your heart and your body without an apology is a huge sign of an empowered, mindful individual who has learned to give their own self the importance that they have been giving everybody else. It is the most conscious and beautiful way to return to oneself when you stop making an apology about what you need. You don't have to feel sorry for feeling bad. You don't have to feel sorry for feeling tired. Why? Why do you want to be a martyr? Does that make you feel important? What do you gain in the process? Think about it. You know, letting others show up for you is a sign of humility and a sign of compassion to yourself. It's okay if it's imperfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's okay. It is okay to seek help. Most of us have a huge problem seeking help because we think it's a sign of weakness. It is almost as if we are less than who we can be when we cry to somebody. No. You are so brave to acknowledge your own fear, your own sadness, your own discomfort, that you've put your ego aside and decided to return to yourself with honesty. So, keeping these in mind, you will find that as easy as it sounds, our habits do take precedence because we're used to our mind, our autopilot, telling us, push harder, faster, keep going, you can do this. You can prove yourself to be stronger and faster and higher by taking on more, because that is what the world recognizes. That is what society recognizes as success. And then what do? We keep going back and continually on that cycle of burnout, and we continue to feel overwhelmed. So you can rewrite that script. You can reframe that mindset. You can reword that narrative very slowly, very intentionally. So instead of saying harder, faster, keep going, a new default might sound like I listen, I slow, I soften. A beautiful journal prompt, if you are into journaling, could be, what pace feels like kindness today? And this is the gut check that I would do. If your friend was going through what you're going through, what would you tell them? what would you show them in terms of compassion? What words would you use for them? What habits would you ask them to follow? What kind of language and narrative would you tell them? Now, if that friend was in your mirror, what are you telling them? And why are you telling them something completely different? That is a question to ask yourself. So, in conclusion, friends, I would say that you don't need a dozen tools to get this right, or even to start on this journey of returning to oneself. You just need one that meets you where you are at today. If today you feel that a half-hour walk will ground you, meet yourself there. You don't have to do an hour. You don't have to add on the yoga. You don't have to add on the meditation. No, meet yourself where you are at and then see what happens. Encourage yourself to try one thing and, celebrate the success of doing that. Celebrate consistency. Consistency is its own reward. We are so quick to take on new stuff, try new things, keep going that extra mile, pushing ourselves with the next fastest, shiniest object in the horizon. But no, it is inconsistency where we truly return to ourselves, because that is the calm. Okay. So in the next episode, our final episode for July, we will tie it back to your truth, to the power of authenticity, when we will meet overwhelm with presence. And one more little affirmation before I close off for this episode. Friends, you are allowed to choose softness, to trust slowness, to live not in reaction, but in the rhythm of just being. Keep returning to what steadies you. You don't need someone to tell you that. You know it already. Until next time, this is Preetha.